I gotta be honest, from a content creation perspective, the new changes inside Raid with the free regear permanently have been an absolute game changer, allowing me to showcase so many more champions and not go broke, even though I'm at 6.5 million silver currently, while doing it. So, this video is partly in thanks to that, because we're going to be talking about Tholin Foulbeard, one of the fairly recent fusions inside the game. If you completed this fusion and you're looking for a build, I got you covered. If you just pulled this guy and you're looking for a build, congratulations, you have a very, very solid damage dealer. And I got you covered with a build, right? So we're going to be taking a look at his kit, talking about what makes him so special and all those sorts of things. Go ahead and make sure to subscribe to the channel, as well as like the video, if you want the YouTube algorithm to promote this to more people, which will certainly help me. And it'll help me improve the quality of the videos as well. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take a look at this kit. He has a small book, a small novel for his kit, essentially, as you're going through this. There's a lot of reading to do. So he has a Demonbreaker A1, attacks all enemies before attacking, has a 50% chance of placing a weaken, has a 75% chance of placing a weaken for 2 turns, if the target is from the Corrupted Alliance, a boss, or a minion. This effect cannot be resisted by enemies from the Corrupted Alliance, bosses, or minions. Grants an extra turn if a weaken debuff was placed on all enemies by this skill. So already a very, very cool kit, right? Basic attack, AoE, makes him very solid for a stun set, if nothing else. Before attacking, has that chance to place the weaken. The weaken chance goes up if it's a boss or, you know, a certain alliance you're fighting against, and it cannot be resisted if it's a boss, which is huge for so many players, because you may not have the accuracy requirements or those sorts of things to be able to efficiently build him out, right? Especially considering you want damage stats on this guy as well. A2, Back to the Abyss. Each hit, it's a attack one enemy 2 times. Each hit will ignore 25% of the target's defense. If the target is from the Corrupted Alliance, a boss, or a minion, each hit ignores 50% of the defense instead. Each hit decreases the target's attack by 5%, stacking up to 25%. Each hit also increases this champion's attack by 5%, stacking up to 50%. So obviously this guy is made for boss content, longer content, right, where he can stack this up. The attack decrease effect is very, very solid for things like, for example, Clan Boss, Hydra, Event Dungeon, those sorts of things, where over time you can really start to ramp out more damage because you're decreasing their attack, which is going to help your survivability, and then you're giving him another 50% attack post-deployment, which is insane. That's insane. That's the equivalent of having a large increase attack buff on you at all times, in addition to still being able to get an increase attack buff, which conveniently he brings himself. AoE times 2. Before attacking, places an increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns. Each critical hit landed on the first hit increases the damage dealt on the second hit by 10%, will ignore unkillable and shield buffs. This is very strong because this means that you can run him into things like Swift Parry in the arena, right? He doesn't have to worry about shields. He doesn't have to worry about that unkillable. You don't have to worry about bolster sets. This guy is just going to do a lot of damage. We have a passive, activates Demonbreaker, so that's going to be his A1. Right, every 5th turn this champion takes, enemies from the Corrupted Alliance, bosses, and minions cannot land a critical hit on this champion. This is insane, right? Like, he's basically Harima, but on crack in some instances, because Harima makes it so that demon spawns cannot land a critical hit on her, and it makes her so much more tanky, as you may know, against, you know, demon spawn champions. This guy says anybody from the Corrupted Alliance, which, if you're unfamiliar with the Corrupted Alliance, that's going to be Demon Spawn, Undead Hordes, Dark Elves, and Knights Revenant, cannot crit him. This is huge because we have some super, super strong champions in these factions. So we have, obviously, Commodus, Carnage, Corrosa, all fairly decent options. We have somebody like a Neithwi, right? Candrafon still very much in the meta in some instances. We have a Rotos, right? UDK, Necrit, so many damage dealers here. Fabian can't crit hit him, which, you know, doesn't really matter, but it just means less damage taken overall. Calamitous, like, you know, lots of options there. Dark Elves, we have Aphidus, who nobody uses. Elva, right? Like, there's so many options for really strong damage dealers inside these factions. Embrace cannot crit hit him, right? Narcissus cannot crit him. Georgid, Fortis, Hegemon can't just go first and blast you down, right? Eric's, somebody like a Gaius. None of these champions can land critical hits on Tholin, which is so incredibly strong. And then also bosses can't crit him in either, so the 15% crit rate that any bosses have just doesn't matter, right? Because they can't land it on him anyways. He is obscene, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and test him out inside stage 20 of the Dragons, which actually we may, yeah, will be perfect. This is a strong stage for him, so we're going to bring him in. I forgot to mention he does also have an increased ally attack in all battles, so he has a very good aura there. I'll show you the masteries here as well real quick, so you can't really see because of my microphone. But we do come down to Helm Smasher on the left-hand side, and then of course we do have him built out inside some counterattack masteries with the defense tree, just basically trying to make him tanky, right? The only thing in his kit that really requires accuracy is his A1, but for boss content it can't be resisted anyways. And in case you're wondering, his A2 with the decreased attack effect, that does not require accuracy, same as Harima. So literally the only thing in his kit that requires accuracy is the A1 if you're trying to land that weekend. But I mean, for me at least, I'm just building him as a damage dealer. We don't have any Relic on him. If you were going to put a Relic on him, there's a few fantastic options. So first of all, if you have it, you can put the Cat's Gaze on him. Anything that's going to increase crit damage. So, for example, the Essence Quencher is going to be very strong. Obviously, Wand of Submission, if he's your Arena Nuker, is going to be fantastic. Something like the Golden Elixir to keep him alive if his HP is dropping down. So, certainly if he's soloing content and those sorts of things, that's going to be very strong. Gore Crescent. Arithi Coronet is going to be fantastic if you do have him placing any sort of debuffs, right? And the Orb of Transfixion is possibly going to be the, one of the best options for him, because he's going to have a 10% chance to steal a random buff when attacking a target. And since he has that AoE on the A1, it's going to be so many chances to steal a buff. Now, the Orb only activates once, but if you're doing an AoE, it has a chance to proc on every single one of those enemies. So, statistically speaking, right, if you have a single target skill, you have a 10% chance to steal a buff. Then, if you're going on, an AoE, you have a 10% chance per enemy, basically, which is going to vastly improve your odds of doing it. Now, in terms of the actual stats, right, this is how he's built out. 260 on the speed, 103, 300 on the crit rate and crit damage, respectively, 300 resistance, almost 299 there, 345 accuracy, 5792 on the attack. In terms of the blessing, I do have him built out with Soul Reap. If you're not doing Soul Reap, something like a Polymorph is going to be fantastic if you're using him inside the arena. Brimstone if you're using for PvE. Something like Temporal Chains, Intimidating Presence. Like, there's a lot of good options for him. The Temporal Chains and Intimidating Presence would really only be good if you have no other options for him. But I don't necessarily recommend running him inside a support blessing, because he's so incredibly strong that you're going to benefit from running him inside the offensive blessings anyway. So to set this guy up, let's go ahead and, of course, bring in our Arbiter for the increased attack. And then let's also go ahead and find our Lydia and bring her in here as well. Now, we're going to go ahead and start this, and we're going to see just what kind of damage he can do. Now, keep in mind, he is strong affinity versus the stage 20 enemy, so it's going to be a pretty nifty little test. We're going to go ahead and get that AoE decrease defense and weaken. Now, we are going to do the A3 with him and just see what kind of damage he is capable of. Boom! Boom! 2 times hitter, over 100,000 per hit. I seen 173,000 per hit on the A3 against one of those enemies there. And then I did also see some 60,000s there as well, so it just looks like it kind of depends on if Helm Smasher procs or not. Now, we are going to go into the wave 2 here. We're going to go ahead and just kind of cycle our turns because obviously we don't have everything off cooldown yet. We're just going to do an A1 here, try to get some weakens out there, try to get some damage. Still 40,000 damage on A1 is very, very solid. Now, we're going to go ahead and get that AoE decrease defense and weaken, which is going to help out our damage significantly. Obviously, we're going to hit them with the A2 here, so we're going to hit into the Tyrell, and we get boom, boom, 116,000 and 123,000 on a 2 times hitter. Now, obviously, there's champions out there that are going to be pumping out higher damage numbers, and there's certainly people out there doing showcases on champions that have far better stats than this, right? But in terms of the actual levels of damage that this guy's putting out, it is very, very strong. Now, he is so incredibly useful even for faction wars. As you can see, we get the weaken up on the boss there. We get the extra little whack, obviously, because we took the 5th turn there. So every 5 turns, it's going to allow us to get that extra hit from the A1. Big hits on the boss there, about 160k as well. This guy's just a raw DPS little dwarf, right? Nothing too crazy. I would love to show him inside Hydra, but I don't think I have any Hydra battles available. We get the 2x hitter there on the A3 as well. We may get clapped here by the dragon with his big hit. We do get a pretty big smack there for 133k. We do also place the weaken, so we get the extra turn into the A2. We don't have to worry about the poison from the dragon anymore. This guy's going to do some work. I'm going to go ahead and let this finish because there's a Dungeon Divers event going on right now that I'm trying to do for the Ninja Turtle fusion. And the Dungeon Divers take an obscene amount of energy to complete. So any little bit of energy spent is gonna make this so much easier. Now, you could, of course, very much min-max this gear, right? I always say that on my guides. We do see the Soul Reap coming in there as well, which is fantastic. You could min-max his gear a little bit more. He is inside lethal, but you could also build Cruel on him, which he doesn't have. I'll show you the pieces, so obviously we don't have everything min-maxed here, right? Like, you could get more attack substat rolls. Like, for example, this weapon is terrible when it comes to dealing damage, right? Simple as that. You know, we don't want necessarily the resistance roll on there. An extra roll on attack would be nice. A crit damage substat would be perfect there. You know, we do have a nice piece here, obviously. Pretty nice piece here as well, but you know, there's room for improvement, so you can definitely get some better use out of this guy on your account as well if you build him out. In case you're curious, something I will show you is this is actually the gear that I use on him in day-to-day life. So this is how he's built out. Very similar stats. He just doesn't have lethal because I only have so much lethal to go around on my account. So I do get a lot of use out of him inside Faction Wars, and those are kind of the stats that you'd be looking at there for his build. You know, obviously a lot stronger if you have some sort of a defense ignoring set on him, like Savage, Cruel, Lethal, etc. That being said, let me know down below if you guys use him and where you use him. Like I said, I don't think I have a Hydra battle available. I do not, unfortunately, so I can't really showcase him there, which is a really, you know, fantastic area for him. Go ahead and let me know where you use him, how you have him built, and thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.